All right, ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome on in to episode 4 of What's Brewing. I'm your host, Andy Brewer. Happy New Year! Happy New Year. It is now 2026. It is the 5th of January, actually, of 2026. And what better way to start off the new year than to talk about the top 5 games that I played last year, right? Where this is what the podcast is going to be today. I'm a little bit late. I'm 5 days late. I wanted to do this before the end of 2025, but I just didn't have time. And if you guys are just coming in, I recently put out a year in review video with all of our stream highlights, I should say, from 2025. I have a lot of fun making those, so definitely go check that out. And because we hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube recently, I'm still getting situated in my chair. It's early. Because we just hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube recently, I will be working on a channel and review video. That'll be a while out still. But it's good to see you guys. Welcome on in. Happy 2026. So without further ado, let's talk about what's brewing. Now, I'm going to let you guys know I'm battling a bit of a cough, so I might be muting my mic here and there, if I feel it coming. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time. That's kind of what I'm dealing with, but let's talk about what's brewing. So a lot of good games came out this year, and I guess before we get into it, I want to address the chat. We got Skylight, first one in the chat. What's good, Skylight? And Juan over on the YouTube side, holding it down. Juan on the YouTube side. What's up, Juan? Good to see you, man. I miss you, Juan. Hope you're doing well. It's good to see you guys. There was a lot of games that came out this last year, but it's funny enough, more so on the indie side, right? And we had quite a handful of AAA titles, right? But I felt like there wasn't a lot of big heavy hitting AAA titles, at least in my opinion. Oh, Skylight with the tier 1. I just realized I gotta mute alerts for the podcast. Oh yeah, baby. Thank you so much for gifting a sub to S Fiverr. I think I'm saying that right. Thank you so much, Skylight. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Hope you're doing well. I am, Juan. I hope you're doing well as well, my dude. Anyway, let's talk about these games. So not a lot of heavy hitting AAA games, at least for me, that came out this year, right? At least for me, right? I felt like I played quite a bit of indie titles this year, and I will say we did a stream. But pre-Game Awards, where we were voting on the Game Awards, and I apologize, I don't have any notes, so I'm just going to yap for probably the next hour, and just whatever comes to my head about these games is what I'm going to say. But we did a Game Awards stream talking about, first off, voting on the Game Awards and things like that, but also I went and ranked every game that I played this year. And I wanted to do a podcast talking about going more in depth about my top 5 games that I played this year. Because I kind of just briefly mentioned them. If you've been anywhere near the channel at all this year, or even if you're not even subscribed to this channel, and you've seen some of my content, you'll know what my number 1 game of the year is. You'll know what it is. But I want to talk more in depth about these games. And I will say, from the time that we did that stream, before the Game Awards, till now, literally a month later, my top 5 games of 2025 has drastically changed. My number 1 is still the same. But my top 5 is drastically changed. And so I'm going to be talking about my top 5 of 2025 that came out this year, but also my top 5 games that I played this year that didn't come out this year in 2025. So I'm going to have 2 separate top 5 categories that we're going to be going into. So I'm going to take a sip of water real quick. Give me a second. And again, battling a bit of a cough, so I apologize ahead of time. I might be muting here and there. Okay, so my number 5 game. So this list drastically changed, right? Previously, I had Monster Hunter Wilds in my top 5. Previously, I had Elden Ring Night Rain somewhere in my top 5. Those games are no longer in my top 5 this year, which is crazy because I enjoyed both of those games. Monster Hunter Wilds, I love Monster Hunter, and I think Wilds has like the best combat that we've gotten so far in the Monster Hunter series. But that game, after I was done, I didn't have a desire to go back and play it, even after sinking 100 hours into it. Elden Ring Night Rain. It was a super fun roguelike. A Soulsborne roguelike. It's pretty crazy. This has kind of been the year of roguelikes for me, I feel like, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to. But I would say those are probably honorable mentions. I'm not going to talk too much about them. They were in my top 5, but now they're not because of just what this last month has been for me. So my number 5 game this year of 2025 that came out this year is a little game called Blueprints. This game is severely underrated. Severely underrated. And if you don't know what this game is, I'm gonna kind of break it down real small for you, okay? It's basically a puzzle roguelike or a puzzle roguelike escape room, right? I love escape rooms. Dude, my girlfriend and I played this year, and I got hooked on the roguelike gameplay loop that this game established. So essentially, the point of this game is you are entering into this mansion, and I'll give you kind of the basic plot of Blueprints. You get it, you enter this mansion, and so your great uncle passed away, and he's leaving this mansion for you as an inheritance. But there's a room in the mansion, and it's room 46 that you have to get to. That's the goal of the game. You got to get to room 46. And if you get to room 46, then you will claim your inheritance that has been left for you. Now, there's more to the game. There's so much more, actually, after you get to room 46. That's really only like, that feels like the whole game, but that it's really only like scratching the surface. But every time you open a room in this game, you're given 3 blueprints. So blueprints is literally a play on word for blueprints. Also, the Landy Lodge in the chat. What's good? We out here. I can appreciate the play on words, blueprints. And that is intentional. It's intentional. So whenever you draft a room, you're giving 3 random rooms to choose from. And whatever room you choose to draft is the room that will open next. So you can draft a bedroom, and the bedroom gives you extra steps. You can draft a pantry, which gives you food that gives you extra steps. You can draft, I don't know, like a nook that gives you a key, because at some point, you're going to have to, when you get farther into the estate. Oh yeah, this is live. We're live today. Yeah, we're live today, brother. Whenever you get farther into the estate, you're going to come across some doors that are locked. So you need to get keys and certain resources early on. You also collect gems that open like special rooms that are, probably going to be more of a help for you later on and things like that. And every time you enter a room, you lose a step. So you start off with 50 steps. Every time you enter a room, you lose a step. And there's rooms that give you more steps. There's rooms that actually take away steps, things like that. When you reach 0 steps, the run is over and you start over. Or if you reach a dead end, the run is over and then you start over. So the plot of this game, here's what I really love about this game. The lore is so deep. If you're a lore guy, the lore is it goes so deep, And it actually, oh, wait, yo, is that Landy? Toss a coin to your Witcher. Oh, Valley of Plenty. Yo, thank you for the $2 super chat, Landy. I appreciate it. You're the man, Landy. The lore and the story for this game is so deep. It's deeper than people realize. And as you progress through the game, you discover the lore and the story along the way. And you'll discover it through like items. You'll discover it through like just maps that you find. Like there's like a whole underground area, and then there's like a whole tomb that you can find, and there's like all kinds of lore stuff down there. You basically discover the lore and the story as you go on, and then you kind of understand what the significance of getting to room 46 actually means, right? The story of this game, right? It's this nephew claiming his inheritance, but what does that inheritance actually mean? What does it actually signify? What's the lore behind why that is so important? So that's kind of like the story of it. But again, what got me hooked on this game is literally the roguelike gameplay loop. And again, I'm not too into roguelikes. You know, like, but now I can say after this year, after playing quite a few roguelikes this year, I gotta say, I think I'm turning into a roguelike fan. So yeah, it's a puzzle roguelike. So you draft rooms. Every room is different. Every room does something different for you. And then you have to progress throughout the estate. And you gather resources to help you progress even farther. Because you don't want to hit a dead end, or you don't want to get to a locked door and then realize I don't have any keys. So like whenever you can't progress any farther, the run is over. It's over. When you run out of steps, the run is over, then you start over. Now there's like permanent upgrades and things that you can get to help your runs as you progress the game, but you really like the puzzle solving is very intricate because you have to like have knowledge of multiple rooms, and you have to have knowledge of certain items that you can acquire that do certain things to really just unlock like the mysteries of this game and to really actually progress in this game. So it's fantastic. It's super underrated. It's free on PlayStation Plus if you have PlayStation Plus. I think it's like $20 right now on Steam. It's such a good game. And again, my girlfriend and I played this this year, and she's not much of a gamer, but she loves puzzles. And so we had a grand time playing this game. So yeah, it's one of those games where you just gotta kind of play it and just experience it, and then as you I feel like my chakras were unlocking after every single run because you learn something new in every run. Like you learn how certain rooms work. You learn that I need to get to this part of the mansion, but whenever I get there, it's actually not what it seems. And then you take that knowledge with you into more runs and things like that. It's fantastic. If you're into puzzle games, if you're into roguelikes, this is literally the perfect game for you. And I think also just the significance of, you're discovering the remnants of what the people who came before you left behind for you. You're kind of like discovering, in terms of the story, you're discovering that part of the game where it's like, that theme of like, what did, these people that came before me, what did they leave for me? And this is their legacy and things like that. So it's really good. I recommend it. It's my number 5 game this year. Out of all the games this year, it's my number 5. I can't recommend it enough. And it's one of those games that it draws you back in. Like there's multiple like different game modes once you but you have to like unlock them as you progress the game. There's always a reason for me I feel like to come play this game. And that's kind of a theme with all of my top 5 games that I have this year. Is there is a reason for me to come back and play. Like I feel like I want to come back and play them. Like I mentioned earlier with like Monster Hunter Wilds, for example. I put 100 hours into that game, but after I did everything I wanted to, I had no desire to go back and do any more hunts, even with the updates. With Elden Ring Night Rain, I ended up platinuming that game, but then after like I did that, even with like the new updates and like the new bosses and things like that, I had no desire to go back and play it. Another game that's not going to be on this list is Ghosts of Yotei. I'm enjoying Ghosts of Yotei, but there's just other games that are occupying my time right now. So like I haven't had a desire to go back and play it, right? And maybe that's also because a lot of it is very similar to Ghost of Tsushima, you know? So it's kind of one of those games where it's like I'll play it whenever I get to it, or I'll finish it whenever I get to it. But a theme with these top five games, there's always a reason for me to go back to play these games, and I think that's, you know, whenever I consider my top five, that is heavily in consideration. Also, Cage Guides is in the chat. The lore guides. I'm telling you, dude. A king just stepped into the chat. We've got multiple kings in the chat. Multiple blue princes in the chat. And yes, it is a play, like Landy said, it is a play on words. Blue prince and blue prince. Dropping water bottles here. This is what happens when we do this thing live. Guides, if you've never played this game, I'm telling you, dude. I think you and Mrs. Guides would really enjoy this game. I feel like this is a feature Friday game right here. I'm just saying. I really would like to see you guys play that. Anyway, let's move on. Got to drop the lore and the water bottles. I'm dropping everything like it's hot. So Blueprints is my number 5. Number 4. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming as soon as it dropped. You knew, listen, if I have any excuse to talk about Octopath Traveler at any capacity at all, I'm going to do it. And it came in like a thief in the night. Octopath Traveler 0 dropped at the beginning of December. The fact that we even got a new Octopath in general, dude, like, is crazy, bro. It's crazy. Guide said, yeah. Skylight said it's not for me. You talk about Blueprints, and hey, that's fine. It's not, that game's not going to be for everybody. I just recommend y'all give it a shot, right? So, Octopath Traveler 0. Now, obviously, if you've been here, you've heard me talk about Octopath so many times, right? I am an Octopath shill, as they say. And by as they say, I mean as I say. Octopath 2 is one of my favorite games I've played. Actually, it was my game of the year in 2023. I'd put Octopath 2 in my personal top 20 of all time. But Octopath 0 is my number 4 this year. It's my number 4. And I just realized maybe I should start recording in case something bad happens to this stream. So I'm going to do that. Octopath 0 is in my top 4 this year. And yes, I love Octopath. That's a bit, I am biased. But what I love that this game does different. So to kind of frame it for you, this is just Champions of the Continent without the gacha. I gave Champions of the Continent a shot, and Champions of the Continent it's just a mobile game, but there's a gacha thing in it, and I wasn't too into the gacha-ness of it, right? This is literally Champions of the Continent, but the gacha is taken out, and there's like new quests and like extra content and things like that. And it's really good. I actually went in not with I didn't go in with like super like incredibly high expectations, like Octopath 2 expectations, because I knew it wasn't going to live up to Octopath 2 for me. But I'm genuinely surprised with how much fun I was having with actually the constructing the wish veil part of the game. So there's 2 different like parts of this game, right? There's actually like traveling and like experiencing the story and like the typical Octopath stuff. And then there's a whole other part of the game where you're actually reconstructing and rebuilding your hometown, so you can build houses and trees, and you recruit residents to live in Wishvale in your town, and every resident you recruit gives you some kind of perk and things like that. And usually I'm not into games like that. I'm not into like, the whole like Animal Crossing, like building your town thing, right? But with this game, I've been really enjoying it. And I like the separation, right? I do like the balance that this game has, where it's like I could literally just spend all my time just like fighting the bad guys and progressing the story of, you know, the rings, right? This is literally like Lord of the Rings, but there's like a million rings, you know, and it's not just one ring to rule them all. It's like 8 rings to rule them all, you know? So I could either do that or I could just build my little town. You know, and that's like a whole quest in itself. That has a whole quest line in itself. It's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if I definitely don't like it more than Octopath 2. I'll say that. I don't like it more than Octopath 2, but it's honestly like, if, you know, I recommend it, especially if you're not in the Octopath. It has something different to offer. You've got you have multiple playable characters in every Octopath game, but in contrast to Octopath 1 and 2, with the exception of the very end of Octopath 2, instead of having 4 characters in your party, you have 8 in your party. And so you have like a front row and a back row, and you can assign like pairs of characters to each other. So you're not going to be taking 8 turns, you know, but you can have 8 characters on the field at one time, and that really makes the fights like, you know, it really gives you so much more that you can do, you know, in terms of the combat. Let me see what some of the chat's saying. Landy said, "Let's go, baby." Guy said, "Yeah." I bought the first one on your recommendation. I need to find time to play it. Dude, honestly, and I say this all the time, one of the best compliments that I can ever get as a content creator is if I can get somebody to play a game that I am super passionate about and I love so much. Now, the Octopath games are long games. All right, they're like minimum 80 to 85 hours minimum per Octopath game. So they are long games. It's one of those games, like for me, like I kind of just I play it like an hour or 2 hours at a time here and there as I go, and I can always come back to it. Skylight says currently playing Octopath 2. Landy says, considering Octopath for 2026 Game of the Year, 120 hours in and there's still so much to do. That's crazy, dude. Also, Heather, what's good? What's good? Yeah, I'm only 30 hours in. I haven't had as much time to play it as I've wanted to. I'm only 30 hours in. I just started the Master of All quest line. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And I gotta say, dude, like, I think this Octopath game has some of the best villains in Octopath. My one, I guess, I don't know if it's a criticism, because the 3 villains that they present you with are like, dude, they're evil to the core. And each one of them abuses like a certain type of power, like type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Each one of them abuses their power and leverages like their power over others and takes advantage of others to get what they want. So like there's like a one that abuses her wealth. There's one that abuses his power. There's one that abuses his fame to basically take advantage of people to get what they want. And these villains are evil, dude. And I love whenever a game can make me really hate their villains. I think this game has some of the best villains. My one criticism is, though, I wish, and I'm not going to get into spoiler territory too much here with Octopath, I do wish I had a little bit more time with, you know, those quest lines, because they did feel a little bit short to me. However, I think they did do their job, though. Like, they in terms of the story, they present and they give so much story in like the few chapters that you have with like each of those, like pursuing each of those villains, that it really does. Part of me is like, I feel like they really can't expand it anymore. Right. I feel like that, you know, I feel like it was good enough for what they did, but I think I definitely wanted maybe a couple more chapters, fighting against some of these villains. Right. And so where I'm at right now is the story is, you know, it's kind of it's like the aftermath of that. And now there's like a whole new storyline because people are after like these rings that you have and things like that. So again, I'm only 30 hours in. I'm not like, I haven't finished the game. But I really like the villains in this game. I think the stories are really good. You also create your own character in this game. So like you're like your own silent protagonist, which I think is really cool. And I you recruit a lot of characters along the way. They don't really have much of like their own story though. And that's something that unless like, there's more stuff later on, which I haven't gotten to, but they're kind of just, and I guess it makes sense because it was a gotcha game, right? So it's like, you're just like, kind of like, in Champions of the Continent, you're literally just pulling for these characters. So I can excuse the fact that like these characters that you recruit aren't really getting fleshed out in Octopath Zero. But I think like, for me, like that's something that I really miss about the first two Octopaths, right? I actually like that Octopath 1 and 2 are very focused on like your 8 characters and it's telling their stories and things like that. This game, it's really just a story of you and the story of Wishvale and the story of these rings and things like that. So I think that's something I would say like I'd put Octopath 2 for sure above 0. I'm not sure if I put Octopath 1 above it yet because I need to finish Octopath 0 because again, I'm only 30 hours in and these games are long. There's so much to do in these games. I really enjoy, again, the combat's great. The combat's the same in pretty much every Octopath game with, a few tweaks to it here and there. And it's got some of the best, Octopath has some of the best turn-based combat, in my opinion, in any JRPG out there. With the boost system, and with this game, you're able to control 8 characters. Like, that's awesome. I think right now, I feel like when I'm finished with 0, I think I'll probably have it above Octopath 1. But right now, I can't really put it above that yet because I need to finish it still. The Wishvale building is so fun. It is, dude. I still think Octopath 2 is better for now, but further I get in, I don't know, man, it's getting close. Wow, that's saying something. That's saying something, dude. I love Octopath 2. I think what I like a lot about Octopath 2, though, is it's all the individual character stories, right? And that is kind of like lacking in this game, but it's what is good about this game. I don't want to say it's a negative about this game because what this game is doing, it's the story is more focused, right? It's more focused on kind of like one overarching story. And what is really nice, and I've only gotten one character from the previous game, but there are characters in here from Octopath 1 that you can actually get and recruit in your party in this game, and that has been such a breath of fresh air because the first one that I got was Tressa, and she was one of my favorites from the first game, and I really like that about this game, because at some point, hey, I might have a full party of just Octopath 1 characters, and I'm cool with that. So I'm excited to see what other characters that they are going to have later on. I'm excited to keep playing it. The story has been really engaging me overall, and it keeps me coming back. This is a game that I can only play, though, maybe 1 or 2 hours like a day if I have time, because these games are very long. I can maybe do like a chapter a day, but that's, I think, the best way to experience Octopath is just take it like 1 or 2 chapters a day, honestly, just so you don't burn yourself out. Landy said, I'm 120 hours in, easily another 50 plus hours of quest content left. That is crazy, dude. Oh, man. This might be the biggest Octopath game, period. Because I think I did everything in Octopath 1 and 2, and I was at like 120, 125 hours in both of those games. The second campaign and its villains are superior to the first campaign. I'm curious if you'll feel that way. Really? Oh, because I really like the villains in the first campaign, quote unquote. I really like those villains. Yeah, I'm curious to see how it evolves. I would probably rank this game higher this year if I finished it, but it did just come out last month. And these games are long, right? So, but right now it's in my number 4. Octopath Zero is in my number 4 spot. I love the Octopath franchise, and I really love this game. And you'll easily get your money's worth out of it. Landy says, Octopath Zero plot narrative, better than 2 and 1, but Octopath Zero character arcs, better than 2 and 1. Really? Really? I need to play. See, because I don't feel that way yet, but I need to finish the game. So I'm very curious on how the game continues, right? Picked up Octopath 1 and 2 over the holiday sales, debating when to start the journey. Dude, take your time with them, Rocks. Take your time with them. Take your time with them. You should play it, Heather. I recommend it. Oh, you misspoke. I'm sorry. Octopath Zero character arcs are not better than 2 and 1, but the narrative in Octopath Zero is better than 2 and 1. Yeah, I can, you know what? And from just what I've gathered so far with Octopath Zero, I can get behind that because the narrative, you know, in the previous Octopath games, everyone has their own narrative, but this is more of like a focused narrative in this game, right? Everything is more focused, and everything is also, you know, you have to consider like whenever, you know, all the stuff that you're doing in Wishvale is also like coming together with like the overall narrative of the story. So I would say I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I wish some more, like, my party would get, like, fleshed out. But at the same time, I get it because this game was a gacha game. So it's like, that was never really the intention, right? The intention of the original Champions of the Continent was, like, you play through this narrative and then you pull these characters along the way. So again, I can't criticize it too much for that because of the nature of what this game was and what it is now. Octopath Zero is my number 4 game of the year. Okay, my number 3, a game that this is a game, I've never played the first game, but I decided to give Hades 2 a shot this year. My dude, I never got so hooked so quickly on a gameplay loop faster in any game that I've played in a long time than I did playing Hades 2, bro. Hades 2 is my number 3. I'm putting that at my number 3 game this year. Roguelike game, another roguelike. I did not play Hades 1. I want to play Hades 1, but like, you know, this game, like, dude, this is one of the highest critically acclaimed games like ever, dude. It got like a 96 or something on Metacritic. It's really high up there, and the user ratings are really high too, you know? And so I'm like, I gotta check it out. I've always wanted to give it a shot. Now that I'm getting more into roguelikes, especially this year, I want to give it a shot. My dude, I got so hooked on the gameplay loop of this game, right? It makes you, and like, again, the point of these roguelikes is to die. You're supposed to die playing these games, right? That's the point. But this is the first game that I've ever played where and there's probably I'm sure many other roguelikes are like this. I've not played a lot of roguelikes, right? This is the first game I played where the story actually progresses when you die. Like, it's so interesting. And so, like, when you die, you go back to the hub and all the characters have different dialogue. And they talk about, like, how your previous night went. And depending on how your previous run went will kind of depend on what the dialogue is. And then so sometimes you'll get, like, you know, some little lore beats. Sometimes you'll learn a little more about, like, what's going on. Sometimes you'll learn a little bit more about a character. Sometimes you'll learn a little bit more about yourself. Melanoe. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's the main character of this game. But you learn a little bit more as you die. And I just thought that was so interesting. But also, this game does a very good job of making you feel like you're progressing when you're not progressing. because every run you get like materials and you get certain items and things that you carry with you when you die, so that you can unlock more things. And so you can unlock more power-ups that you can equip for your run to make yourself more powerful, so that you can progress further. There's multiple weapons in this game. I have 5 out of the 6 weapons right now, and every weapon is fun to use. And every weapon, there's you can really come up with a crazy build for how you can use every single weapon and really abuse the mechanics at your disposal to really capitalize on either doing big damage or wiping out multiple enemies at one time. The progression of this game is what really got me hooked, because I feel like I'm progressing without progressing. Like, even though like I die like halfway through a run and I have to start over, it feels like not only am I learning more about like bosses and just kind of where things are at and what certain routes do and things like that, but also like you are getting materials to help you upgrade yourself farther in as you progress throughout the run and things like that. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that, because even with Blueprints, again, very different roguelike, but still a roguelike, it only felt like that whenever I discovered something within a puzzle where I was like, oh, wait, this connects to this. Okay, I'll remember that for next time, But there's not really a ton of things outside of like the permanent upgrades in that game that make you feel like you're progressing. That's more of like I'm mentally progressing. But this game, I feel like I progress every time I do a run. And yeah, the builds that you can come up with, oh my goodness, dude. It's crazy. Like the amount of builds, the amount of items, the amount of accessories that you can kind of give yourself to like optimize a run. It's really interesting, and I'm very curious. I want to see like how other people play this game, because I definitely have builds that I favor, I think, but I'm definitely curious to see like how other people play this game. Now, I got all the way to Kronos. I'm at the point where like I can consistently get to Kronos. Kronos is like the end boss of one of the routes. That's all I'll say, right? Without spoiling anything. He's like the big bad as of right now. I finally beat him, but in order to actually progress the story, you've got to beat him multiple times, and that's like a plot thing. I won't spoil it because the story is really good, and I do like how they tell the story. I think it's very unique. I'm actually kind of blown away with how they can get away with like all these different like sets of dialogue and how they tell the story based off of like how you die and when you die and where you die, because like the dialogue is literally always different. Anytime you go into a run, anytime you go back to the hub area, it's so interesting. So I got to the point where I beat Kronos at like night 19 or 20 or something like that. But to progress, you've got to beat him multiple times, and that's a plot thing. So it's really fun. I recommend it. I really want to go play the first one now. I really want to play the first one to see, kind of like how they've improved and where they've come from, and, what's different. But this game is very good. You have to play the first one to understand the story. I didn't play the first one, and I completely understand what's going on in this story. Now, there are some lore things that I didn't pick up on from the first game, but to understand the actual story of what's going on, I don't think you need to play the first one. It's one of the situations where it'll probably help to play the first game, but you don't need to play the first game. I don't think, because I didn't play the first game, and I fully understand what's happening in the story, right? I fully understand what's going on. I'm sure, though, if you played the first game, you'll appreciate this one more, as it is with any sequel, right? Things like that, any series. Guide said they really cracked the code with Hades and Hades 2. So many friends stand by it. Yeah, I mean, our good friend Katie Wayfinder is a huge Hades fan. Every time I think of Hades in general, I think of Katie and how much she loves that game and how much she's like streamed and played that game. So like, as I was playing, I'm like, I bet Katie would really appreciate this. Take a sip of water. Yeah, so Hades 3 is my number 3. I put it above Octopath. I do. I put it above Octopath because I feel like I got the thing with Hades 3. Hades 2, not Hades 3. We ain't there yet. The thing with Hades 2 is the reason again that I put it above Octopath is I felt like I got more hooked on Hades, right? Because I played Hades 2 before Octopath came out, and then Octopath came out, but like I wanted to keep going back to playing Hades, to be honest with you. And I love Octopath, bro. I love Octopath. I love Octopath 0. It's really good, and I'm really engaged with the story and with, just everything in that game. But this is the game that I wanted to keep going back to over Octopath and over even Blueprints and things like that. I wanted to keep going back and playing Hades 2. It's just so addicting, and I got so hooked on it. This is the one game that I'm like, man, I really just want to keep playing it, but also Octopath is out and I really want to play that. So it is the struggle of having too many good games out at the same time, right? So I also think of Katie. Yeah, shout out to Katie Wayfinder, by the way. If Katie ever comes across the podcast, she'll know that I'll be glazing her up. Her and Hades, bro. Honestly, it's worth the glaze. Hades is worth the glaze, dude. If this dude just played Katie Octopath fake fan, I might be a fake fan. But listen, dude, I'm telling you, Landy, I don't know if you've played a Hades game. You will get hooked on this. I don't want to say you will, but I'll say I got hooked on it so much to the fact that I wanted to actually I was so determined to kill Kronos at least one time, or to beat Kronos at least once, before even starting Octopath, right? I was so determined to do that, and I want to keep going back and playing more. So yeah, Hades is my number 3. All my myth nerdy friends tell me it's a crime I haven't played these games yet, dude. Yeah, especially with all the mythology you've got in your head, dude. Oh yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it, dude. With all the it's just a really good game. At this point, I'm just gonna keep rambling and stumbling over my words if I keep yapping about this game. Hades 2 is my number 3. Number 2, I gotta give it the Silk Song, dude. I gotta give it the Silk Song. And chat, by the way, before I say anything, this game is $20. This game is $20. And this is a 40 to 50 hour experience. Casual experience, 40 to 50 hours. This is a steal. With how much content is in this game and how big this game is, especially compared to the first game, dude, it is a steal. I played Hollow Knight, the first Hollow Knight game, earlier this year, literally right before Silk Song came out. I wanted to see what the buzz is all about, which we'll probably be talking about the first Hollow Knight later. Spoiler alert. And loved it. Absolutely loved it. There were so many people who waited, like, I don't even know. Was it like 9 or 10 years or something for Silk Song? I waited probably about a week because I finished Hollow Knight and then Silk Song came out a week later. So I had a nice short wait for Silk Song. Silk Song's my number 2. This game does a lot of things right for me. I think it improves a lot of the first game. I think like the mobility in this game is much better than the first game. And for me, like, I love a game with good mobility and good platforming. I love the platforming in this game. I love like the different tools that you can get to optimize like your loadouts and your battles and things like that. There's just so many. I think this game does a lot of things right. There are some things that I do like better about Hollow Knight 1. I think I like the lore and just the atmosphere in Hollow Knight 1 a lot more. But like the combat in this game and the mobility and just how big this game is, and the soundtrack, dude, it's all better in my opinion. And this game is harder than the first game. If you thought Hollow Knight 1 was hard, this game is harder. It is. But it does a lot right for me. I don't think the lore is as interesting in this game, excuse me, in comparison to the first game. But I think just like, going through this game and just the discovery, right? Discovering like new areas and new things and the progression, the Metroidvania like progression of this game really kept me wanting to keep playing it and coming back to it. The boss fights in this game, oh my gosh, dude. The boss fights, although a lot of them are incredibly annoying, the boss fights, dude, some of the best boss fights this year, maybe in video games ever, to be honest. Like the final boss, the Act 3 final boss is crazy fun, dude. The boss fights were a highlight for me. My criticism, my biggest criticism though, is I wish that there were more bosses and less like enemy encounter like rooms that you're locked in, because there's a lot of like spots where it's like they kind of lock you in a room and you have to fight a wave of enemies, and I do like doing that, but this game did feel oversaturated with that specifically. That's my biggest criticism of this game, but this game is so fun, dude. It's so fun. All the side quests are fun. Outside of, I hated the delivery quests in the first Hollow Knight, at least the one with like the flower or whatever. And I hate the delivery quests in this game. But other than that, the quests are all really fun. It's just a good time. If you enjoy like the 2D Metroidvania platformer, genre, right? This is a game for you. This is a game for you. I'm trying to think what else I want to say about this game other than it's my number 2, right? It was really hard because this also, I almost put Hades 2 as my number 2, to be honest. I almost put Hades 2 as my number 2, but I think why this game is slightly above it is because there's something that they do at the end of Act 2, and I'm not going to spoil it, but essentially like there's something that they do at the end, and it kind of determines if the game ends or if you actually unlock a third act. Like, literally Act 3 is hidden, and you have to find out how to unlock it, and it's so worth it. This game did make me cry, which is crazy because, like, dude, it's a little Hollow Knight game. Like, how could this game get you in the... How could this game get me in the feels? Oh, it did. It did. Which is why it's in my number 2. If any game can make me cry or get emotional, it's easily a top game of the year for me. There were a couple of side quests that got me. There's a couple of side quests, especially in Act 3, that just really hit me hard. And it's one of those things where, like, if you know, you know. Because and the first Hollow Knight game does this too, but this game does a pretty good job too of like you as you talk to like these NPCs, you kind of get to know them, and you kind of like, you'll see some of them here and there, and you build relationships with them, and it becomes really emotional whenever you get to a point in the story where like something might happen to them, And this game got me, dude. It got me. So it's one of those games where like I didn't really play it so much for the story, but there were some moments with some of the characters that actually got me, But honestly, just again, the challenge of it, the discovery of like the bosses, I think just discovering new bosses and just new areas and new things, like that's like the best part of this game. That was the best part about the first game as well. It's just the discovery, figuring things out, right? And that's what kept me going back to it. I probably put 50 hours into it, finished Act 3, I'm done with the game, but there is so much that I missed. Like, I'm seeing videos of people fighting bosses that I have no idea how I missed it, but I missed it. It's just crazy. Sorry about that. It's crazy how much content is in this $20 game. Only made by a small handful of people. And it's only $20. Landy with another $2 super chat. Genuinely enjoying this episode. Keep it up, yo. Thank you, Landy. I appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Silk Song is my number 2. Again, it was kind of a toss-up between this and Hades, but I did finish this game, and I didn't finish Hades, right? So that does kind of influence it a little bit. But yeah, there's just a lot of... It's great, dude. Like, it's just... even if you don't enjoy the game, it's only $20. You know, I'd say give it a shot. And that brings me to my number 1, which everybody saw coming. I don't think there wasn't somebody who didn't. I don't think there wasn't a person who didn't see this coming. Right? Expedition 33. It's not just a bet, and I'm going to avoid spoilers, and if I delve into spoiler territory, I will let you guys know. But I'm going to avoid spoilers because this is a game that you really just need to go into this game not knowing anything. You got to go in just not knowing anything, and I think that's the best way to experience it. But this isn't just one of the greatest games that I played this year. This might be one of the greatest games I ever played, period. I think this is in my top 5 of all time. At one point, I said this was my new favorite game of all time. At one point. After, like, further thinking about it, I don't think I would put this in, like, my number 1 favorite of all time. Because, again, whenever I consider my favorites of all time, it's games that not just have, like, a really good story and great gameplay and that keep me engaged the whole time, but it's always a game that I can come back to, right? But I would say this game is definitely in my top 5 of all time. It's definitely in my top 5. It actually, I think I'd put it maybe in my top 3 of all time. Easily. The characters are so, like, every character is so well written. Every character I felt like I got emotionally attached to. I felt like I fell in love with the world, which is what made, like, the later parts of the game a lot more impactful. And if you know, you know, when you get, like, more towards the end of the game. And just like the way that this, how do I explain this without spoiling it? The way that they tell this story really, really, I think why it's one of my favorite games of all time. It really resonated with me personally because this game, I feel like everybody can find something that they relate to in this game. This game deals with a lot of heavy themes, mainly the theme of of grief and loss and how different people process and how different people grieve and cope with losing a loved one or things like that. And I feel like the reason why I always say like everybody needs to play this game is because everybody, at least that I know, has lost something or has gone through something like tragic. And this game is honestly like therapeutic in a lot of ways. Just the story itself is therapeutic in a lot of ways. And I think it's very relatable. I think everybody can relate to it. I related to it. I related so heavily to it that, again, it got me. It made me cry. It the end of the game was very it was built up in such a way where I was like, this is crazy. Like, dude, it was genuinely one of those games where like the entire time it kept getting better and better and better. And the whole time I'm like, dude, this is crazy, dude. This is crazy. Yeah, it's such like the story alone, the story and the characters alone are worth it. Like, even if you don't want to play it, dude, watch the cutscenes at least, get the story, but you're better off. You're going to have a much better experience playing this game. The soundtrack, 10 out of 10 soundtrack in my opinion. 10 out of 10 soundtrack. It has so much variety. It's so good. It very much conveys, like, in every area that you go to, the soundtrack really conveys, like, the atmosphere of that area, and also, like, in certain boss fights, it really is, like, a lot of these songs are actually telling a story, especially with some of the fights towards the end of the game, where like if you understand what the lyrics are saying, dude, it's actually like telling a story, and it's actually like, it's crazy. Again, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but dude, like this game, like video games are a work of art. And in my opinion, I think this game is a masterpiece. And I've only ever said that about really one other game, where I think this game is genuinely a masterpiece. Do I have my criticisms? Yes. I think the Act 3 pacing was a bit rough. I think that could have been different. But other than that, like, I mean, even with like some criticisms and some very minor nitpicks, to me, it's still a 10 out of 10. Like that doesn't reduce it in points for me, right? It's still a 10 out because of the experience that this game is. I love, and again, this game is not the first game to do this, where it implements like action commands in turn-based combat and like dodging and parrying, in a turn-based game. But this game does it exceptionally well, and I think like that gameplay loop had me in a chokehold, dude. Like I could not stop playing it, dude. I could not stop playing this game. I like that you can break this game. I actually like I've seen like some people say like, oh, like when you get to a certain point in the game, it feels like you just one-shot everybody. I actually kind of like that in this game because it feels earned, and like all of like the, all like you can watch a video and just copy and paste like builds and things like that. But like everything, like all the builds that I came up with, where I ended up one-shotting even some of the super bosses in this game, I didn't watch a single video, dude. I didn't watch a single how-to video. I came up with that all by myself, and to me, that's where the satisfaction is. The satisfaction in cheesing this game is, and cheesing some of these bosses and breaking the game is through yourself, like discovering it. Right, discovering how to do it and what you can do and things like that. There's so many different builds. There's a million different pictos. You can really optimize any character to be anything too. Like I have CL strictly as a support character, but I've seen people who made her into like a full DPS character. It's crazy. It's like I didn't even think a character like this could be capable of so much damage. So. I actually like that you can do that. And I do like that they actually implemented an update where like, hey, so you can actually make the enemies harder and give them more health and things like that if you want more of a challenge. And I think that is kind of a way of them addressing and trying to fix as best as they can the Act 3 criticisms of like, when you get to that point in the game and when you unlock the ability that allows you to pass or surpass the damage cap, it does become very easy and things like that. Yeah, I mean, dude, like the dodging and the parrying, whenever you land like a string of parries, especially if you do some of these super bosses in the update, dude, like the Endless Tower super bosses in the update are crazy, bro. But when you land a counterattack from parrying a string of like 14 attacks, dude, it's the biggest adrenaline rush that you'll feel in a turn-based game ever, right? Like, there's just no game like Expedition 33, dude. It's made by a very small team. You can tell that these people are so passionate about this game, that people love this game, that this is literally a love letter to RPGs. This game is a love letter to RPGs, dude. There's so much love and attention to detail put into this. And I recommend that everybody plays this game. I think right now it's $40, right? I think it's on sale for $40 right now. And that's the other thing. It didn't even release at full price. On launch, it was like a $50 game, which is crazy. So I I don't know. I mean, there's so much I could say. This game has everything, dude. This game has everything. The characters are great. The dialogue with the characters are great. They have a lot of fun moments. There's a lot of humor. It looks beautiful. There's some like fun mini games, like some even like it's not a platformer, but there are some platforming mini games in this game. You know, there's just this game. I feel like has everything. I feel like this is like, I feel like this game was revolutionary, not in the fact that because of like the type of game that it was, but because like this game came from such a small studio and it put these AAA devs to shame, truly. And it shows you that if you give just a handful of people who love video games and you give them like the budget that they need, which by the way, this game was made with a $10 million budget. That was released. That interview was released, I think, after the Game Awards. $10 million it took to make this game. That's it. And they made one of the greatest games of all time. Dude, whenever you take a passionate group of people who just want to make a good game, they did this. They made this game in 5 years. There's some games that take like 10, 11 years to come out from AAA studios, or like 7 or 8 years, and not nearly as much. They're not nearly as good as something like this. So I don't know. I really think this game shook up the industry in a good way. And I think the industry needed shaken up, right? I think it needed shaken up. Guide says, definitely going to try to get to E33 this year. Oh, dude. The prologue alone will have you hooked, bro. E33 was the game changer we've been asking for. It's not an RPG game changer, but it's an industry game changer. Exactly. It's not revolutionary for RPGs, right? It's not the first RPG to do something like this. But it was revolutionary for the industry. Also, Ruthie, how's it going? Welcome on in. Happy New Year. Hot take, Lune's character arc was completely abandoned. All the other characters had complete sub-narratives. As a Lune stan, it was the one character writing I was disappointed in. I agree. I agree with you. I think Lune, I really loved her in the beginning of the game, and I loved like what they were, what they were building to, even with like her parents and things like that. And there is a quest with her later that kind of, brings a bit of closure to like some of like that stuff. But I do agree with you. I think I was also the most disappointed with kind of like, I guess, her character. Because like she kind of, after like Act 1, okay, I would say this. The Cyrene fight, though, she had a really good moment in the Cyrene fight. And I think there's a lot there with like that whole section. I think that's actually one of her best moments. But there's like a lot of times where like I felt like she was kind of just there. Even I think CL is a better character than Lune personally. And CL, like CL I think is the most underrated. CL is the most underrated character. A lot of people say like CL's not that interesting. Bro, you didn't do her side quests. You didn't talk to her at the camp. You didn't like, she is I think she's one of the best characters in this game actually. And CL is so like, with everything she went through and she's still able to be as compassionate and kind and strong as she is. Dude, it says a lot. CL's great. I'm not going to explain. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not going to go into, because I don't want to spoil anything, but she's great. I wanted more out of Lune. Although I will say this is something that I actually caught this morning. I saw somebody post this, literally as I was getting ready for the podcast, and I thought it was I never caught it before, but there's a line, and okay, we're going to minor spoilers here. Spoiler alert. You have been warned. I'm only going to talk for maybe 30 seconds about this. So there's your warning. But there's a line at the beginning of the game where she says, as long as one of us is still standing, we are going to continue. At the very end, depending on which way you go, the last time that you see Lune, she looks at Verso with that look in her eye, and she sits down. Because that's it. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't catch that before. That's all. That's the only like spoilerish thing that I'm gonna talk about. We're not gonna go into any other spoilers again. I want you guys to really play this game, dude, and experience this game. I don't mind the auto nuke, but it did hold the combat back. I agree. I think like I felt pretty underwhelmed whenever I got to Act 3, you know? Because I was just like nuking everything, you know? And I was like, man, like I do wish like I had more of a challenge. But that's also because I chose to do literally every single super boss outside of like Renoir's drafts and Simon, you know, before going to Act 3. So things like that. Also, Renoir is the best character in this game. That's all I'll say. Maybe we do a Renoir podcast episode. Maybe we just do a podcast episode talking about the characters. But Renoir is genuinely my favorite character in this game. I think he's the best written character in this game. That's my opinion. Again, not going to go into spoilers. But that's where I stand on that. One of the best characters, easily in my top 5 antagonists of all time. Easily. My E33 hot take is that they should have ended the game after Act 2 and dealt with Act 3 stuff in a second game or DLC. See, the only reason why I don't agree with that is because the cliffhanger in Act 2 is it's just too much of a cliffhanger. Like, it would have made me feel so empty, dude. Like, ending the game on Act 2 would have been similar to like watching the end of Avengers Infinity War and then waiting a year for Endgame. Like, that's literally what ending Act 2 and then just not having anything until like a second game or a DLC. That's literally the equivalent of what that would have been. No Dispatch on the list. Shake my head. Listen, I didn't even play Dispatch. I'm watching playthroughs of Dispatch, man. Yo, what's up, Trousers? It's good to see it. Trousers is a big Dispatch fan. That Dispatch, I will say, from what I've seen, it's really good. It's really good. Yeah, it's like ending FF7 at Disc 1. It's like ending FF7 at Disc 1. Essentially, right? If they were to do something like that. I have such a soft spot for the characters trying to keep their parents' legacy research alive. She had such a solid foundation. Yeah, I think I wanted to see a little more out of Lune. I would say she was the only character where I'm like, there's so much potential here. I wanted to see more. Just a little bit more, dude. Okay, let's see. Renoir is my favorite because I hated him at first, but once I got to know him, I understood. Yeah, when you get to know him, dude, like, you understand why he's doing what he's doing, and that's why he's such a good character. Breathtaking, redeeming the grab. Crash! Yeah, let me go get him. Absolutely. So with that being said, I could do a whole episode of why Expedition 33 is my game of the year. Yada, yada, yada. I feel like I talk about this game enough, though, to where, like, I feel like I've said everything I needed to say. Haven't seen you since last year. Got him. Okay, so those are my top 5 games of 2025. That's my top 5 of 2025. Now, we're going to go through another top 5 here. I'm going to try to go through these games a bit quicker because I really wanted to focus on, games that came out this year. But I also have a top 5 list of games that I played this year that didn't come out this year, right? So I have 5 games. We're going to start at number 5. These are games that came out this year. There's a whole separate list. Games that came out this year. Games that I played this year that didn't come out this year. And this first one that we're going to talk about is... This was hard because I didn't know what to do with this, right? But I had to put it in my top 5. Xenoblade 2 Torna. Specifically Torna. And I'm going to explain why. So for those of you who don't know, so Xenoblade, this is the DLC expansion to Xenoblade 2. And the reason why I'm actually putting this, like, I was debating on, like, do I put a DLC in my top 5? But I'm going to, because the other game that probably would have been here if it wasn't this would have been, I think, like maybe Spider-Man 2 specifically. But I think I had genuinely a better time with Torna than I did with Marvel's Spider-Man 2. I'd say that'd be my honorable mention of, like, top 5 games that I played this year that didn't come out this year. The reason why I'm putting Torna in my top 5 and not Xenoblade 2, because Xenoblade 2 was just okay for me. Xenoblade 2 was like a 6 out of 10 for me. There was a lot of things I liked about Xenoblade 2, but there was a lot of things that I didn't like. I felt like I had a love-hate relationship with Xenoblade 2, with just like some of the gameplay decisions and progression and things like that. Torna fixed so many of my issues that I had with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I won't, again, no spoilers or anything. It fixed so many issues that I had with Xenoblade 2. The combat, right? I like the combat for Xenoblade 2, but something that I wish that I think would have been cool is, like, man, it would be really cool if you can you know, swap your characters like mid combo and like your blade and like play as like some of your blades. And literally that's what Torna does. Dude, they tweak the combat ever so slightly. It's a very minor change to the combat that literally took this game that was a 6 out of 10 for me at best to like a 7.5 or an 8. And it was just a minor tweak to the combat, dude. The combat was so much more fun in Torna. I really like the characters in Torna. And like that's the other thing too with Xenoblade 2 base game. I couldn't really get attached to the main cast as much as in comparison to the first game, right? I just couldn't. But Xenoblade 2 has some good villains. The villains in Xenoblade 2 base are like the best part of Xenoblade 2 in terms of the story, in my opinion. With that being said, Torna goes back hundreds of years to focus on some of those characters, notably some of those villains, for one thing. And I really just enjoyed Torna's story and like the flashback, you know, just like seeing like that chunk of like Xenoblade 2 in this Torna expansion. I enjoyed that more than I think the base game of Xenoblade 2 overall. I enjoyed playing Torna more. I actually wanted to do the side quests and it felt good whenever I completed them. There was a lot of things that Torna did that I really loved. And that just fixed a lot of my problems with Xenoblade 2, which is why I have to put it separate from Xenoblade 2, because it does feel like its own separate game, to be honest. It really, like, they tweak a couple of small things, but it feels like its own separate game. So I'm putting Xenoblade 2 Torna at my number 5 here. Basically, from what you're describing, this is Kingdom Hearts 3 Remake for Xenoblade 2. Yes and no. I don't think I would make that comparison, to be honest. Because Kingdom Hearts 3 I still think is really good. I still think Kingdom Hearts 3 base game is really good. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 has some issues, right? And I think Remind does fix some of those issues. But I think like this, I would not make that comparison. I would say the leap from Xenoblade 2 to Torna is a much bigger and better leap than the leap from Kingdom Hearts 3 to Remind, in my opinion. But I do agree that Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind improved some things from Kingdom Hearts 3. It really just made Kingdom Hearts 3 better. As this game, I think, made Xenoblade 2 better. So Xenoblade 2 is my number 5. Okay, number 4, top 5 games that I played this year that didn't necessarily come out this year. My number 4. I didn't think this would be up here. I'm going to put Silent Hill 2 at my number 4. Silent Hill 2 Remake specifically. And I didn't play... Okay, listen, you have to know something about me. I don't play a lot of horror games. Every now and then I do. Horror's not my genre. But this, so many people recommended Silent Hill 2 to me. Because, like, dude, if you're going to play any Silent Hill game, you got to play Silent Hill 2. You got to play Silent Hill 2. I've only ever had people who I'm close with, like, in my circle, be like, dude, Silent Hill 2 is the one to play. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll play it for Halloween one year. Well, I played it. I played it, and I understand. I understand why it's regarded as one of the best horror games of all time. And it's not even that it's not like the horror aspect of it. It's the story, dude. This game keeps you like kind of wondering and guessing throughout the entire game of like what's going on. Dude, the entire game, it's like, is Maria really alive? Like, who is this other person that I'm seeing that looks like Mary, but it's not Mary? Her name, I'm already getting the names mixed up, right? It was such a... And I'll say this. I did predict the ending. I did predict what was actually going on pretty early on, but I think the build up to that, it did keep me guessing the whole time. And this game, it's not too like in your face scary, right? Which I actually like. It's more like psychological, right? It's more like psychological horror. I mean, there's some jump scares and things like that, but it's not like it's not like Resident Evil 7 in your face scary. Like that's like because I played RE7. I didn't play a lot of other Resident Evil games, but there was a lot of moments in that game where it was like in your face, like there are some jump scares, but it kept me guessing the whole time. It kept me intrigued and engaged the whole time. I think the puzzles are very intricate and very interesting, and they're not too difficult. But there is like a difficulty setting where you can make the puzzles more difficult to solve, which I think is really interesting. And I think there should be more games that do have puzzles that should have a setting like that. Make puzzles easier or harder. It was good. It was, as somebody who's not a horror guy and who really doesn't engage with the genre that much, I was engaged the entire time playing this game. Anyway, the combat's okay. It's nothing special. But just the story and, James himself and just kind of figuring out what's going on, the mystery of it, unraveling the mystery of what's going on in this game was the highlight. That and just like the puzzles and, dude, some of the boss fights are crazy. There's a lot of like deep, dark themes that are just ingrained in the boss fights themselves. And then and it's crazy like when you actually sit and think about them, like how dark like this game actually gets. But it all builds up to like a big reveal at the end. It was really good. It kept me engaged the whole time. Do I have any plans to play another Silent Hill game? Absolutely not. But I really enjoyed Silent Hill 2. Also, Derprenor in the chat, what's good? Do any of the Torna characters have better pants than Rex? I would say probably all of them do. I'd say probably all of them. Yeah. So Silent Hill 2 was really good. My number 4. Number 3, a game that we mentioned a little bit earlier. I got to give my number 3 to Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight 1. Hollow Knight 1's got to be my number 3. Again, this is a game where I really played it because I've owned Hollow Knight for years. And I told myself, I'm going to play this game whenever we get when we get a release date for Silksong. Well, we got the release date for Silksong, and then I decided it's time to play Hollow Knight. Probably one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played. I don't know, for me personally, I prefer the Ori games over Hollow Knight, but I understand why people regard this as maybe one of the greatest games ever made, to be honest. Like, I get it. It's another one of those games where I played it and I'm like, I get it. And that's kind of like a lot of what this list is. This specific list is like, people really talk about this game a lot. Let's play it. And then I played and I'm like, I get it. I get why it's so good. The lore is so interesting, dude. The lore to this game, I had to watch a lore video after I was done with it to really digest and understand it. Dude, it's so interesting, man. And I said this earlier, but I think the lore and the story in this game is actually much better than Silksong. But Silksong's gameplay, I think, is better. But I do like the simplicity of this, right? You have an attack button, you jump and you dash, and, you know, you have like maybe one special attack, and that's pretty much it. You know, and you have like charms and things that you can equip, which I think in Silksong they replaced with like the tools and then the crests, which like, you know, kind of customize your moveset. But I like the simplicity of Hollow Knight. I like the atmosphere of this game. It's genuinely, I think I understand why it has such a huge fan base and why it's honestly one of the best Metroidvanias out there. Like, I think it really is. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have much else to say other than, you know, probably one of the best Metroidvanias I've played. I'd put Ori and the Will of the Wisps above it, I think, because that's one of my favorite games of all time. But I don't know. I'm kind of biased towards the Ori games. I think Hollow Knight does some things better than Ori, but I think I just like Ori. I like just the story and the music of Ori better, and just like playing that game, I think, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to compare them. Like, I mean, they should be compared because they're both Metroidvanias, but I understand why people praise this game because, again, of how much they perfected the formula of the Metroidvania. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things about Hollow Knight that I would have to say, probably just similar things that I said about Silksong, to be honest. So I don't really have much else to say about it other than I get it. I get why it's, to some people, is one of the greatest games ever made. Trouser said, what convinced you to play it? You talk about Silent Hill 2? Literally just word of mouth recommendation. And people said that I would enjoy the story of it. And I did. There were some themes in there that I really resonated with, man. Yeah. So we got 2 more games to talk about. Then I'm getting out of here. I'll be done yapping. So my number 2 game in the backlog that I played this year, but didn't come out this year, I gotta give it to this game. I gotta give it to Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Xenoblade 1. So I started Xenoblade 1 in December 2024, but mostly like I played it. I probably finished it in like February or March. And another game where it's like, what's the hype about Xenoblade, dude? Like, what's the hype about it? You know, a lot of people were recommending Xenoblade to me. This was the most recommended game to me by like just people like in my chat and comments like on videos and things like that since Persona 5 Royal. And so I had to check it out. I have a lot of friends who really like the Xenoblade series. And my goodness, dude, like this game, I think between Xenoblade 1 and 2, I definitely like 1 a lot more. I got really attached to the characters. There are some characters that are better than others, but the characters are great. The combat is very unique where it's like, it feels like FF14, but without the MMO aspect, right? Like I have you know, abilities at the bottom and moves at the bottom that I can select, and then they're on a cooldown. So it has like that like FF14 MMO like aspect to it, but it's just like a single player game, and you have like 2 other people in your party, you know. It's great, dude. The story's really good. I really resonated with the story. I think Shulk is one of the greatest protagonists of all time, to be honest. I think he's become one of my favorite protagonists. I'd say top 5 easily. He was definitely the highlight of Xenoblade 1, but I think just the way that they approach this story, it starts off as like a revenge story kind of, but then as you go through the game, it kind of shifts. Like you get a perspective shift, And then it goes from like just wanting revenge to posing the question of like, why are we even fighting in the first place? What's the point of this war? What is the point of us even fighting in the first place? And then like, gosh, like this was a game where like Xenoblade 1, dude, there were some slow moments at the beginning. So like it started off very strong. This game starts off very strong, hooked immediately. And then like when you get to like chapter like 3 and 4-ish, like when you get to like the mines, kind of drags a little bit. And then it kind of just, it doesn't really pick up until you get to Alchemoth. And then you get there and then you get to Prison Island. And then from there, which is like chapter like 6 or 7, I had to, sorry, the brain rot, around that like chapter 7-ish. And from there to like the rest of the game, it literally just keeps going up. It literally just keeps getting better and better and better. It's insane. Yeah. And it didn't stop. Like for Xenoblade 2, I felt like there was a lot of like this chapter was good, but this one kind of sucked. This one was good, but and it got to a point in Xenoblade 2 where it's like, okay, now we're like getting towards the end. Now it's like really building up and getting better. But I think Xenoblade 1 just told the story better, and I feel like Xenoblade 1, it had that, but it had that much earlier, and it kept me engaged much longer. To the point where like I was I could not put this game down. I needed to know what happened, dude. I needed to know what happened. And the comparison, and this is how I described after I finished Xenoblade 2. This is how I described the difference between Xenoblade 1 and 2. Right? Xenoblade 1 has a great story, and it's told very well. Xenoblade 2 has a good story, but I don't think it's told very well. And I think that's the biggest difference between Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2. Xenoblade 1 was like a 9 out of 10 for me, dude. And the reveals at the end, and just like, this game does a very good job, especially in the second half where, again, it just keeps going higher and higher. It just keeps, you're on a roller coaster, but you're like, you've already built up and now you're just zooming for the rest of the game. It does a very good job of like building up like all these like little things and then big exposition moment. And then here's some build up and a big exposition moment. This game was amazing. I mean, it made me buy a Monado. You see it back there. There's literally a Monado back there. Yeah. But it's my number 2 game. It's my number 2 game in the backlog that I played this year. My number 2 game. Rock says to me, the numbered Xenoblade games form the best story series you have played. See, I'm very curious how Xenoblade 3 is going to be. I've not played it yet. I'm going to play it this year at some point, but a lot of people have been hyping up Xenoblade 3 for me, more so than the first game, so I'm looking forward to it. Yo, Spark and Jay said he's brewing. What's good? People talk about how strong Shulk becomes, but forget to mention his strongest feat of all, ending racism with the Monado. Yes, Shulk ended racism. That is all you need to know, right? Like, spoilers without spoiling it. That's all I'll say. Yeah, this story was amazing. The characters are great. The story was great. I wish I could experience the story again. I really do. But it's not my number 1. My number 1 game that I played this year that didn't come out this year, right? This is a separate top 5. If you're just coming in, we had a top 5 games that we played that came out in 2025, which we already talked about. Now we're on top 5 games that I played this year that didn't come out this year. This is my number 1, bro. This game right here. This is my number 1 backlog game. Lies of P, I would put above Xenoblade 1. I would put it above. I had to think about it, but I think I'd put Lies of P above Xenoblade 1 as my favorite game in my backlog that I played this year. This game has, in my opinion, the best story out of any Souls-like game I've ever played. It has the best story out of any Souls-like game I've ever played. Most of these Souls-likes outside of like Code Vein, you really have to like look for the story, and you have to look for the lore and like items and boss weapons and things like that. And there is like a story to them, but it's more so like it's very vague unless you really like look for it and find it. And some things are kind of hard to follow unless you look for it and find it. This game, it's very straightforward. It tells a really great story. It's like Sekiro meets Bloodborne, but in a Nier Automata-inspired world, right? Where you play as a puppet, and the moral question, the question throughout the whole game that you are asking yourself and that you're being asked is, are you real? Are you a real boy? Are you human? Or are you just a puppet? And the mechanic that they have in this game is like they give you choices during the main story and also during a lot of quests, like side stuff, to either tell the truth or to lie. And so if you tell the truth, that makes you more like puppet-like, because you're just telling it how it is. You are created and wired a certain way to just, call a dime. You know what I mean? But if you lie, it actually shows that you're more human, right? Because there's some quests in this game where it's like, the one that I can think of, it's like this one dude, he fell in love with a puppet, an automaton, and he was so convinced that this person was real. And then you have the choice whether to tell the truth or to lie to him, of like, yeah, that love was actually real love, or nah, she was just a puppet, dude. It wasn't real love. It's really interesting. And your choices kind of influence, and this is really with pretty much every Souls game, your choices influence what kind of ending you get. So I think it has one of the best stories of any Souls game that I played personally. And the combat, dude, like, it's so fun, bro. The addition of like giving every weapon its own like you have a blue meter, and every weapon has its own like special ability. And again, it's not the first time like that Souls games have done this, but what they do in this game is they give you the ability to actually combine weapons and handles together. And so you can take like the handle of like a greatsword, or I'm sorry, you can take the blade of a greatsword and put on the handle of like a spear weapon. And you get like the handle ability of that weapon, but then you get the blade ability of whatever blade you combine it to. So there's a lot of ways that you can really customize the experience and really just find a way to, basically find your own way of playing the game, and really just make the experience your own. And there's a lot of ways to play the game. I feel like, though, for me, and it's funny because any Souls game I play, I usually just stick with, like, whenever I find my weapon, I stick with my weapon. I find my weapon, I'm like, this is the weapon for me. It's doing everything that I want it to do. And I stick with it. I don't usually branch out. Maybe I try like a couple other weapons. Maybe I have like a secondary weapon. But this game, dude, I had probably like 10 different weapons that I cycled through in this game that I enjoyed using, and that I used for like different, and I maxed out like 15 different weapons, dude, because I enjoyed using every single weapon, right? And I was really only to do that because I did multiple New Game Plus runs in my free time playing this game because I wanted to platinum this game. But dude, like, all the weapons are super fun. Like, I couldn't just stick with one weapon. I literally cycled through maybe 8 or 9 different weapons, and I had a blast. And the DLC weapons, dude, chef's kiss, dude. The DLC weapons, dude, they give you a gun blade. They give you the hook claws from freaking Elden Ring, dude. They give you a bow. Dude, like, it's crazy. Like, just the amount of the uniqueness of these weapons and how many different weapons there are and how you can customize everything to kind of fit your, to kind of shape the way that you want to play, to fit your play style. And it's, again, a theme with these games on these lists is this is a game that I kept wanting to come back to and keep playing. I just wanted to keep playing it. So much that I did 3 playthroughs and platinumed it, and I played through the DLC twice. So, and the DLC is phenomenal too. I didn't want to put the DLC up here in my top 5. I'm just going to I just wanted to integrate it with Lies of P as a whole. But the DLC story, dude, oh my gosh, bro. Probably, I'd put Lies of P DLC in my top 5 DLCs of all time. I think it's actually in my top 5 DLCs of all time. The story's great, and the boss fights are crazy, dude. So, Lies of P is phenomenal. If you're not into Souls-likes, I think this would be a good one to get into. I think this is a good Souls-like to get into because it also does have a difficulty setting. It's not locked to just one difficulty like most of these Souls games. There is an easy mode and there is a hard mode, I recommend it, especially even if you're not into Souls-likes, but if you like a game like Stellar Blade, I feel like you'll actually really enjoy Lies of P as a Souls-like. Because Stellar Blade, Stellar Blade to me is not a Souls-like. Stellar Blade has Souls-like elements, but it's not a Souls-like to me, right? Because it's more like hack and slash action with some Souls-like elements. This, I think, is a Souls-like because of the mechanics and how the game plays. But I will say, if you like Stellar Blade, and Landy, if you're still in the chat, I'm talking to you, dude. If you like Stellar Blade and you're not in the Souls-likes, Lies of P, I think, is the one to get into. I think you would really enjoy this game. So, and also there's just some similar themes, with the whole puppet and the android thing, and all that stuff. So, Lies of P, if I would have played this game in 2023 when it came out, it would not have been my game of the year. Octopath 2 still would have been my game of the year. But this would have been probably my number 2 game of the year if I played this game when it came out. It was that good. So that's all I got to say, man. That's my top 5 games of 2025, my top 5 that I played this year that didn't necessarily come out this year. My number 1 of 2025 being Expedition 33. And my number 1 not coming out this year being Lies of P. So that's all I got to say. It was a great year. I played so many games this year. I felt like I played more games this year than I did in literally any other year, to be honest. I just got into so much this year. And it was so worth it. It was so fun. I'm excited for the games that I'm going to play this year. We've got a Persona 3 Reload playthrough coming up. I'm not ready to start that yet. I'm thinking it might be a little bit towards, the end of January where I'll start Persona 3. That will be a first playthrough. And yeah, that's really kind of the big thing that I'm going to be doing. But dude, I'm going to keep playing Octopath. I'm going to keep playing Hades. I'm excited for 2026. I got to get a Switch 2 so I can get Adventures of Elliot and Duskbloods, right? Things like that. So, that is my list. Let me see what the chat is saying. Shulk is my favorite protag in all of gaming. GOAT. He's genuinely in my top 5, Jeff. I put him now in my top 5 of all time. Top 5 protagonists of all time, dude. Heard good things about Lies of P. Dude, if you're not in the Souls-likes, I highly recommend Lies of P. I would say Lies of P or Elden Ring are the 2 Souls games that I would recommend people if you are new to Souls games. Those are the 2 that I would recommend. Because they both offer a variety of play styles and just a lot of accessibility, So Spark and Jay says, Xenoblade X, Nier Replicant, and Sonic Racing Crosswords are your favorites you played this year. You were right. Replicant made you cry. Hey, I told you it would, dude. I told you it would, bro. Nier Replicant is a goated game, dude. Goated story. Got Thousand Year Door for Christmas, another goated game. Thousand Year Doors is in my top 10 of all time. Derp. Top 10 of all time, dude. Hope you're enjoying it, man. So good. Oh, well, there you have it. That is going to conclude the podcast for today. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of What's Brewing. I'm not sure when we're going to do another podcast. I have some things in mind, but I just, it might be a while before we do another podcast. Again, I don't have a plan for these podcasts. I kind of just do them as I go when there's things that I want to talk about, or if there's, things going on that I feel like would be fun to talk about and bringing guests on for and things like that. So not sure when the next podcast is going to be, probably going to be a while for that. I've got a lot of video stuff that I got to work on, and Persona 3 Reload playthrough will be happening, I'm thinking, towards the end of January, right? At the earliest is whenever I'm going to start. Also, for all you expeditioners out there, I am going to be doing an Endless Tower Super Boss rematch run back stream maybe next week. We're going to fight those 4 super bosses, and we're going to try to beat them from the update. If you know, you know. So, that's really all I got planned coming up. At some point, we are going to get back into doing our Kingdom Hearts 3 Critical Level 1 data battles. We still got a few more of those to do. So we'll be jumping back into that. But, yeah, that's really all I got for you. Yeah. So thanks for hanging, guys. That's going to conclude this episode of the podcast. My name is Andy Brew, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.